grade. Today I am going to introduce a new art project. I am also going to have the opportunity to meet you on the computer and introduce this lesson as well, but I want to have it here just in case you ever need to look back. So your teachers are sending home a piece of light blue paper, and you're also getting a package of oil pastels. So these, please keep these in a safe space, just like your art watercolor palette. You should have all of those. Just keep them safe so when we do art projects, you have them and they are readily available. So today, I posted a couple of videos about an American artist by the name of Wayne Thiebaud. He was born in 1920 in Arizona. So he is an artist that we can actually celebrate as someone that was born and raised here in the United States of America. So many times we talk about artists from Europe, and I think it's nice for students to understand that there are living artists even today in our own country that are creating artwork. And so today we are going to be talking about how he loves spending time thinking of desserts. So when I look at his paintings, they look so creamy, so colorful, and we're going to have the opportunity to tie in with that idea of two-dimensional art looking and appearing like three-dimensional. So we did our winter in the bottle, we've done our pumpkins this year, we've been focusing a lot on that idea of space and depth. And so we're going to focus today on making a cupcake. Now, I did give you a square paper. I want you to think about really focusing, your subject is going to be the cupcake, so you do want it to be pretty large, and we're going to go ahead and draw it together. So I have a pencil, and with my pencil, I'm going to start with my cupcake wrapper. Now, there's a couple of things. If I went and I made my cupcake wrapper like that, it's going to look very, very flat. So what I want you to think about is using really gentle curved lines. And when I say gentle, I'm not saying like a big swooping curved line, but just a gentle, like I sometimes refer it to as a smile, a gentle smile line. So I am going to go back and forth, and I want you to notice when I'm drawing, I'm holding my pencil more towards the bottom, not way up here, because this would be something I would be drawing very dark and very deliberate, like if I wrote my name. But right now I'm doing some sketching, and if I use the end of my pencil, I'm going to make sure that it's nice and light. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the sides of my cupcake in. All right, they're tapered very, very slightly. If you've ever made cupcakes or if you buy cupcakes, you'll notice like the cupcake angles in a little bit. So I have the sides, and then this curved gentle line, I'm going to repeat here and connect these. Okay, so all of a sudden by doing this, it gives it a cylinder look, where this is very, very flat, all right? Then by just using that gentle curve and matching them on both sides, it really, really helps. Okay, so as far as your cupcake frosting, you can choose. Do you want it to be big and fluffy? Do you want it to look like it's piped, where someone used, a piping bag? So if you even want, you can look on the computer, you can look in a cookbook, and you might get some really fun ideas. So I do have a daughter who is having a dream of opening a bakery, and she loves watching different baking videos and how people decorate, and she loves baking herself. So I'm going to create a piped one because she does use a piping bag quite frequently. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and start with this very organic shape, and I'm going to keep building that. Right, so it's like large, and it gets a little smaller and a little smaller, and then I have the little whipping. And for fun, I'm going to put a cherry on the top. Now you might even think, making a connection with Valentine's Day, maybe it's one of those conversation hearts. You could do a little detail or design for that. That is completely fine. Now I can think of also some details. So very lightly going with this diagonal, I'm going to do a few diagonal on this side. I can do a few on this side. I'm going to curve it. Okay, and later on, I might actually add some sprinkles to it as well. Now, not only are we going to do our cupcake, but I want us to also think, okay, so we've given this cupcake this cylinder look. How can I make my cupcake even look like there's more depth? How can I make it look more realistic? And a very simple thing that you can do is by creating what we call a horizon. So the horizon is gonna separate from the table or wherever my cupcake is sitting from the background. So let's just say I'm in a bakery. So even if you go to Wegmans or Tops in their bakeries, they always have these yummy desserts, and you can see they're sitting on a counter, a platter, a table. It might even be in a showcase, and then in the background there would be just something. It could be wallpaper, it could be a window, whatever is in your mind. Okay, so this horizon is going to separate the table from the background. So already by using that curved line, diagonals just slightly coming down, all right, and that depth, it's giving my cupcake a really, really nice three-dimensional appearance. Now with my oil pastels, I'm choosing oil pastels because you can mix them and they're also very creamy. And so when you use a crayon, crayons are made out of wax, so you can't do a lot of blending, where with oil pastels I can. So you have a lot of options today. You are the artist. I'm going to choose a wrapper color to start with. And I know my paper's blue, but I'm going to start with a light blue. And so I like to begin by just going over those pencil lines that I want to keep. And when I say that, if there's anything that you want to erase, do it before your oil pastel touches it, okay? So I'm just gonna try to go all in the same direction with my oil pastel. Now, if by chance they break, okay, if you have one and it breaks, just still keep it and place them together in your tray. But this is a project that you're going to keep building and adding to. So today, maybe it's just getting your cupcake drawn. And then another day, maybe you want to start adding color like I am right now. I'm also going to introduce a color scheme called monochromatic. I'm thinking about that. Monochromatic means one color and it's lights and darks. So you can see I have a couple little flecks in here. I can actually take my finger with oil pastel and I can just blend those so it becomes part of my wrapper here. Okay. Now monochromatic, like I said, I have a light blue, so if I use a dark blue, it's showing the lights and the darks of one color. And so this will be really nice to add some of those small little details. So when I drew those lines, I can see it through my pastel very, very slightly. And then I'm going to do a little blending here. Add a little bit of shading here. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. I can always come in and I can always add more. Now, if you notice, you will have one blending finger. It's always like helpful if you have just a paper towel or a napkin, you can just wipe it off just so other colors don't mix. So that's a nice little tip there. All right, so now I'm going to think about my frosting. And I think I am going to actually do a white frosting, and I'm going to show you a couple little tricks with white, because if I just use white for everything, it could potentially look very, very flat. So I'm going to start with it, and then I'm going to add another color just to add a little more dimension. And when you look at Rainbow's artwork, oh my goodness, his cakes and his desserts, if you look, when you first look at it, it might just look very white or tan or pink, but then when you really, really examine it, you can see some other colors. So a lot of times I like to take a little bit of this peach color and add a little definition in here. And it just separates each individual part. So I'm going to come up here, do the same thing. I find this very relaxing too when you start working, to do some color blending. So I'm going to give you an example. If I was doing pink frosting, instead of using the peach, maybe I would use a little bit of red, just like I did my lights and my dark blues. So you can think of groups of colors that are in the same family, right? So like there's a light green and a dark green. I could also do a chocolate. Maybe my cupcake wrapper is a chocolate and I want to do some browns, and I would also include that peach color. So many options. Take my finger, do a little bit of blending here. And I'm not over blending. I'm not just like taking my finger all the way through. I'm really trying to follow the path and the line that I've created. Okay, once again, I can come in with a little bit of a peach. I like it. And you can always build the color. You can always keep adding, going on top. You can always keep adding to it. All right. So once you have that, then I can start thinking about some of those details. So I'm going to come in and do that cherry. That's what I chose to do. And another fun way to make that cherry just stand out a little bit more is taking a tiny bit of white and creating a tiny highlight. So it gives it that shine. It gives it that appearance like, hey, it's three-dimensional, and a little definition there. Okay, so after that, I can add even more details. Maybe I want to say, oh, I want to put some sprinkles on here. Use different colors, and I'm not going to actually blend my sprinkles. I am going to keep them just little tiny slash marks. I'll add a couple of yellow. Okay. It's like a birthday cupcake. Right, so I have my cupcake. So this is what I want you to focus on for this week, is getting it drawn and just enjoying the process of building up the colors. Thinking about that idea of monochromatic. I mean, when I look in here, I could say, oh, pink and red, they would be in the same monochromatic, a dark and a light. Okay, pink is the combination of white and red. I have light green and dark green, okay? I have to move some things around. I have light blue, dark blue. So think about like color families together, even like peach and orange, those could work together. I have a dark brown and a peach. Those would also add some definition, especially if I wanted to make chocolate. Okay, I did more of a vanilla. I have one daughter who loves chocolate cake. And then I have another daughter that prefers vanilla. So it's really based on what you want. Now, as I'm looking at this little details, maybe I want to use a tiny bit of white. You can see a little of my red got mixed in with that, but that's okay. I'm okay with a little. That's the nice thing about oil pastels, is if they mix a tiny bit, it actually can add to your artwork. Okay, so go ahead and work on that, and then I'll come back and show you the finishing touches to your cupcake. I hope you enjoy. All right, so hopefully you have this portion done, I'm going to show you how to move on. The next part is actually pretty simple, but you have to make some artistic decisions. So I'm going to think about a table color. If I want a table that's wood, like a grain, great, I can totally do like browns. Okay, if you want to do a color, I'm just going to suggest you don't want to do the same color as your cupcake wrapper, because then it will be very camouflaged. You want your cupcake to look like it's the subject. You don't want it just to blend in. So with mine, I'll go ahead. I will do a brown one, and I want to encourage you, instead of just going in and starting to color, take your oil pastel and outline around your cupcake. Don't go on your cupcake, just kind of go right around it. And this is just for my table. Then, now that it's outlined, when I go in and color, I've created this boundary, this border here that's going to say, oh, stay off, don't go on it. Okay, so I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to choose to color with my brown in a way that's going to make it appear like the grain of wood, like a wood table has a grain. And so I am making sure I color horizontally for mine. I'm gonna keep going back and forth, back and forth. To the edge. Now there's some areas where you can see the blue on my paper, and that's okay. You can just fill them in really lightly. I do want to have some areas where maybe it's a little darker, so then I'm going to take my finger, and I notice I'm not going up and down and all around. I'm just taking this color right to the edge. Same thing here. Don't be afraid to turn your artwork too. Be careful. I do have my fingers on there. I probably should be careful because I don't want to smear or smudge things. Okay. Now I'm going to take, like I mentioned, that peach color, and this is nice when you want to blend it. So I like how it makes some warm browns. There's some darker browns. And notice I'm still going with the direction of my table, trying to stick with the grain of a table. And if you don't know what I mean, maybe you have a dining room or a coffee table or something that's made out of wood, go look at it and you'll actually see the direction the wood is going. Okay, so after you have your tabletop, and you can choose any color, I just chose brown. I would suggest just doing, you know, one solid main color and then just a couple like one color to do some accents. All right, so there's my table. And then I'm going to move on to my background. And this is another area I would keep it real simple. Choose a color maybe you haven't done. So here again, I probably wouldn't want to do red because my cherry would blend in. I wouldn't want to do white because I've already done white. I wouldn't want to use brown because I already have brown. So I'm going to try to find a color that's a little bit different. So I think I'm going to use yellow. It's a pretty wintry day, so yellow is a pretty cheery color. Makes me think of the sunshine. So I'm going around my cupcake once again. And don't worry if you don't touch the cupcake, even if you just have a little outline around it. So you can see I have my fingers have smeared a little in the back, so just be careful. I'm actually going to flip it upside down so that when I color, I'm not touching the bottom. once again, I'm trying to fill in that space. So some colors are actually across from each other on the color wheel. So if you pull out your color wheel, colors like yellow and violet, they look really nice next to each other, but if they mix, because one is a primary and one's a secondary, and because they are both complementary, they're a complementary pair, they will make brown. So you want to think about colors that are more neighbors on the color wheel or within the same monochromatic color scheme. So monochromatic, lights and darks of one color, or neighbors. So like looking at my color wheel, I could say, oh, orange is a neighbor of yellow, or green is a neighbor of yellow. So I would try to choose a color that's a neighbor or within its monochromatic color scheme. All right, so here's that. I'm gonna do, and the reason I'm saying that is I wouldn't want to go and add purple here, because then I would get more browns and then it would match my table. So I'm trying to think of a neighbor. Let's say, ooh, I'm stumped. I guess I'll do a little bit of orange. And notice, I'm not going to go crazy with the orange. I'm just going to brush a little bit in, add some extra detail. Okay, now this finger has a lot of blending. I'm going to try to choose a finger that I haven't done any blending with, because I have not washed my finger off. So once again, all in the same direction. Don't be afraid to turn your paper. So many little things that as you're working, they can be helpful. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. I think it's very fun. And as I look at it, if I want to go in and add anything, define anything, I can always do that. Part of being an artist is stepping back, evaluating what do I like, what do I want to change, or am I good? Sometimes we try to improve something and then we're like, I shouldn't have touched it. That happens to me all the time. So just know when and where to stop. For your cupcake. So like I said, I will be meeting with my remote students in Mrs. Portham and Mrs. Vogel's class, but also my students that I see here at Heim. This might be a fun project that you want to do at home with your family. On a snowy day, you can think about yummy, yummy cupcakes. All right, have a wonderful day and enjoy. Make sure you share your artwork. Bye-bye.